At my sister's wedding, my 7-year-old son grabbed my hand and whispered, "Dad, we need to leave now." I laughed it off until he showed me his phone. In that moment, I froze. My son's hand was ice cold when it wrapped around my wrist. That's the detail I remember most clearly, not the string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon, not the 500 white roses perfuming the air, not the crystal chandeliers casting rainbow prisms across the ballroom floor. Just the freezing grip of my 7-year-old's fingers, desperate and trembling. "Dad," Ethan whispered, tugging me down to his level. "We need to leave. Right now." I laughed. It was an automatic response, the kind of dismissive chuckle parents deploy when their children say something inconvenient at an inconvenient time. My sister was about to walk down the aisle. 300 guests were seated in gold chairs. My wife, Rachel, was standing at the altar as maid of honor, looking radiant in her sapphire dress. "Buddy, we can't leave," I whispered back. "Aunt Melissa is getting married. We'll get ice cream after." "Okay." But Ethan didn't let go. If anything, his grip tightened. "Dad, please." His voice cracked. There were tears in his eyes, not the frustrated tears of a child denied a treat, but something deeper, something that made my stomach clench. "What's wrong? Are you sick?" He shook his head frantically. Then he pulled his phone, the old iPhone I'd given him for emergencies, from his jacket pocket. His fingers were shaking so badly he could barely unlock it. "I didn't mean to see it," he whispered. "The pictures just showed up. Mom's phone syncs to the cloud and I have the family account," and he thrust the device into my hands. "Just look, please." I looked down at the screen, and the world stopped spinning. My name is Daniel Ashford. For 12 years, I built my life around 3 pillars: my career as an architect, my 2 children, and my wife, Rachel. She was the sun I orbited around, the reason I woke up excited every morning, the woman who made me believe that fairy tales weren't just stories we told children to give them false hope. We met in graduate school. She was studying interior design. I was finishing my architecture degree. Our first conversation lasted 6 hours. By the end of it, I knew I was going to marry her, not because of logic or reason, but because of the way she laughed, throwing her whole body into it, unself-conscious and free. We got married on a beach in Maui. We had Ethan 2 years later, then Lily 3 years after that. We bought a craftsman house in Oak Park with a wraparound porch and a backyard big enough for a treehouse. I designed that treehouse myself, spent 3 weekends building it with my own hands while Rachel brought us lemonade and the kids drew blueprints in crayon. It was, by every measure I understood, a perfect life. My sister Melissa was getting married to Gregory Chen, a hedge fund manager with a penthouse in the Gold Coast and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. I didn't like Gregory. He was too polished, too calculating, but Melissa was 38 and desperate for the life she'd always dreamed of. Who was I to judge? The wedding was at the Langham, one of Chicago's most prestigious hotels. Melissa had spent 14 months planning every detail. The rehearsal dinner alone cost more than my first car. It was excessive, extravagant, and exactly what my sister had always wanted. Rachel was the maid of honor. She'd been helping Melissa with wedding preparations for months, spending long hours at the hotel coordinating with vendors, meeting with the wedding planner, handling the 1,000 small crises that precede any major event. "I'll probably be home late again," she'd text me. "Melissa is having a meltdown about the seating chart. The florist sent the wrong shade of ivory. I need to fix this. Gregory's groomsmen want to do a surprise, so I'm helping coordinate." I never questioned it. Why would I? She was my wife. She was helping my sister. I trusted her completely. That was my first mistake. The photograph on Ethan's phone was taken in what looked like a hotel room. The timestamp read 3 weeks ago, the weekend Rachel had told me she was staying overnight at the Langham to handle a vendor emergency. In the photo, Rachel was wearing lingerie I'd never seen before. Black lace, expensive looking. She wasn't alone. The man with her was Gregory Chen. My sister's fiancé had his hands on my wife's body, his mouth pressed against her neck, and they were both laughing at something, some private joke between 2 people who knew each other far more intimately than they should. I swiped. Another photo, Rachel and Gregory in a restaurant I didn't recognize. His hand was resting on her thigh under the table. She was looking at him the way she used to look at me. Swipe. A screenshot of a text conversation. Gregory: "Can't stop thinking about last night." Rachel: "Me neither. When can I see you again?" Gregory: "Tomorrow. Melissa has her dress fitting. We'll have 3 hours." Rachel: "I'll tell Daniel I'm meeting the caterer." Gregory: "I love you, Rach." Rachel: "I love you too, more than I've ever loved anyone." The words blurred. My vision was tunneling. I could hear the string quartet playing, could hear the murmur of 300 guests waiting for the ceremony to begin, but it all sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Dad?" Ethan's voice was small, terrified. "His mom, is she a bad guy?" I looked at my son, my brave, observant, heartbroken son. He was 7 years old, and he had just discovered that the foundation of his world was built on lies. "I don't know, buddy," I heard myself say. "I don't know. The thing about discovering your life is a lie is that time doesn't cooperate. One part of your brain screams that you need to act, confront, expose, escape. Another part insists that everything is fine, that there must be an explanation, that you can't possibly have been this blind for this long." I stood frozen in that hotel ballroom for what felt like hours but was probably 30 seconds. The processional music was building toward its crescendo. Any moment, Melissa would appear at the end of the aisle, ready to pledge her life to a man who was sleeping with her brother's wife. I had to make a decision. Ethan, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I need you to take Lily and go sit with Grandma. Can you do that for me? But Dad, I know, buddy, but right now, I need you to be brave. I need you to protect your sister. Can you do that? He nodded solemnly, wiping his eyes. God, he was only 7. No child should have to carry this weight. I watched him walk across the ballroom to where my mother was seated in the 3rd row, taking Lily's hand along the way. My daughter looked confused but compliant. Ethan whispered something to my mother, and I saw her face shift from curiosity to concern. She started to rise, but I shook my head almost imperceptibly. Not yet. I needed more information. I needed to understand the scope of this betrayal before I did something I couldn't take back. I slipped out a side door into the hotel corridor. The service hallways of the Langham were a maze of beige walls and industrial carpet, a stark contrast to the opulence of the public spaces. I found an alcove near a supply closet and pulled out my own phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I opened the cloud account, the family photo stream we all shared. I'd set it up years ago so Rachel and I could both access pictures of the kids without constantly texting them back and forth. It had never occurred to me to check it for anything else. The photos went back 8 months. 8 months of images that told a story I couldn't have imagined in my worst nightmares. Gregory and Rachel at a jazz club. Gregory and Rachel on what looked like a yacht. Gregory and Rachel in various hotel rooms. Various states of undress. Various positions that burned themselves into my retinas. There were hundreds of them. 8 months. They'd been doing this for 8 months. Since before Gregory even proposed to Melissa. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This wasn't a drunken mistake that spiraled out of control. This was a calculated, deliberate, ongoing deception. Gregory had proposed to my sister while actively sleeping with my wife. Rachel had stood beside me at the engagement party, toasted to their happiness, helped plan their wedding, all while carrying on an affair with the groom. They weren't just having an affair, they were mocking us. Both of us. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Mom, Daniel, where are you? Melissa is about to walk, and Ethan seems upset. What's going on? I didn't respond. I couldn't, because in that moment, staring at the photographic evidence of my wife's betrayal, I was formulating a plan. They wanted to make fools of us? Fine. But this wedding was not going to end the way they expected. I walked back into the ballroom just as Melissa appeared at the end of the aisle. She looked beautiful, radiant in her Vera Wang gown, clutching our father's arm, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. She had no idea. My sister, who I'd protected from bullies in elementary school, who I'd taught to ride a bike, who I'd walked through her first heartbreak when she was 16, she was about to marry a man who had been betraying her since before he put a ring on her finger. I took my seat next to my mother. Ethan was on her other side, his face pale and drawn. Lily was blissfully oblivious, playing with a flower from the centerpiece. Daniel, my mother whispered urgently, what is going on? You look like you've seen a ghost. Not now, Mom. But, not now. My mother fell silent, but I could feel her eyes on me throughout the ceremony. At the altar, Rachel stood in her position of honor, smiling at Melissa with what I now recognized as performed affection. Gregory waited at the front, his expression one of practiced devotion. The officiant, Father Thomas from St. Michael's, the same priest who had baptized my children, began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. I watched, I waited, I documented. Every time Gregory looked at Rachel, which was often, I noted it. Every time Rachel adjusted her hair, touched her neck, sent some invisible signal across the altar, I cataloged the gesture. They thought they were being subtle. They weren't. Now that I knew what to look for, their connection was obvious. The way they angled their bodies toward each other, the private smiles, the loaded glances. 300 people sat in that ballroom, and not one of them saw what I saw, except Ethan. My 7-year-old son had seen it first. If anyone knows of any reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, Father Thomas intoned, speak now, or forever hold your peace. My mother grabbed my arm. She'd figured it out. Maybe not the details, but enough. Daniel, don't, she breathed. Not like this, not in front of everyone. I looked at her. Then I looked at Melissa, whose face was shining with happiness. Then I looked at Rachel, who had the audacity to meet my eyes and smile at me, her husband, the man she'd been deceiving for 8 months as if nothing was wrong. I'm not going to say anything, Mom, I said quietly. Not yet, but this isn't over. Father Thomas continued the ceremony. Vows were exchanged. Rings were placed on fingers. Gregory kissed Melissa with what I now recognized as the expertise of a practiced liar. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The ballroom erupted in applause. Melissa was crying, laughing, hugging Gregory like he was the answer to every prayer she'd ever whispered. Rachel wiped her eyes and embraced my sister, playing her role to perfection. I applauded too, but inside, I was already planning. The reception was held in the adjacent ballroom, equally opulent, with a live band and a 4-tier cake that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Open bar, past hors d'oeuvres, a photo booth with ridiculous props. I played my part. I shook hands, accepted congratulations on behalf of the family, pretended to be the proud brother of the bride. All the while, I was watching, recording, when I could do so discreetly, building a case. At one point, Rachel found me by the bar. "Hey, handsome," she said, sliding her arm through mine. "You've been quiet. Everything okay?" The audacity of it nearly broke my composure. She was standing there, draped in sapphire silk, asking if I was okay while her lover's wedding ring glinted from across the room. "Just tired," I said. "Long day." "Well, perk up." She kissed my cheek. "We need to give our toast soon. Did you prepare something?" "I have something in mind." She smiled, oblivious. "You always know what to say." She walked away to mingle with other guests, and I watched her go. This woman I'd loved for 12 years. This woman I'd trusted with my life. She moved through the crowd with the confidence of someone who believed she'd gotten away with everything. She had no idea what was coming. My toast came after dinner, during the traditional speech portion of the evening. Melissa had asked me weeks ago to say a few words about family and love and all the things that brothers are supposed to say at their sisters' weddings. I'd prepared something genuine, something heartfelt, something about watching Melissa grow up and finding a partner worthy of her. I threw all of it away. The MC handed me the microphone and I walked to the center of the dance floor. 300 faces turned toward me. My mother looked nervous. Ethan was watching with wide eyes. Lily had fallen asleep on my mother's lap, mercifully oblivious. Rachel was standing near the head table, champagne in hand, smiling expectantly. Gregory was beside my sister, his arm around her waist. Proprietary, possessive. "Good evening, everyone," I began. My voice was steadier than I expected. "For those who don't know me, I'm Daniel, Melissa's older brother, and I've been asked to say a few words about marriage, family, and love." I paused, letting the silence stretch. "Marriage is built on trust," I said. "It's the foundation that everything else rests on. Without trust, you have nothing. Just a pretty facade covering an empty structure. I know this because I'm an architect. I spend my life designing buildings that look beautiful but are, above all, structurally sound." Light laughter from the crowd. "So far, so normal. But here's the thing about facades," I continued. "They crack, sometimes slowly, over time, sometimes all at once, when the weight of deception becomes too heavy to bear." The laughter died. People shifted in their seats. Melissa's smile faltered. "I want to share something with you all tonight. Something I learned just a few hours ago." I pulled out my phone. With modern technology, it's easier than ever to capture moments, to document reality, to preserve truth. Gregory stood up. His face had gone pale. "Daniel," he said, his voice tight, "maybe we should continue this privately." "Sit down, Gregory." My voice was ice. "This is a wedding, a celebration. Let's celebrate the truth, shall we?" I connected my phone to the ballroom's AV system. I'd learned earlier that the reception was set up for a slideshow of happy couple photos. The connection was easy to hijack if you knew what you were doing. The first image appeared on the massive screen behind the head table. Rachel and Gregory in a hotel room, his hands in her hair, her eyes closed in pleasure. The gasps were audible. 300 people, inhaling simultaneously, as their understanding of reality shifted. What the Melissa's voice was barely a whisper. I swiped to the next image. Rachel and Gregory at a restaurant, laughing, touching, looking at each other the way couples in love do. "This has been going on for 8 months, I said, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom. 8 months, since before the engagement, since before any of us knew there would be a wedding to plan." Another swipe. The text messages appeared on screen, blown up large enough for everyone to read. "Gregory, can't stop thinking about last night." Rachel, "Me neither. When can I see you again?" Melissa screamed. It was a raw, animal sound, pure agony. She stumbled backward, away from Gregory, as if his touch had become toxic. "Melissa, wait." Gregory reached for her. "Don't touch me." She slapped his hand away. "Don't you dare touch me." Rachel was frozen in place, her champagne glass tilted at an angle, wine dripping onto the floor. Her face had gone white. "Daniel," she said, her voice cracking, "please, let me explain." "Explain what, Rachel?" I walked toward her, still holding the microphone. "Explain how you've been sleeping with my sister's husband for 8 months. Explain how you stood beside me at the engagement party, toasted their happiness, helped plan this wedding, all while carrying on an affair with the groom. Explain how you looked me in the eyes every single day and lied." The silence was absolute. 300 people, motionless, watching our marriage disintegrate in real time. "I love him." Rachel's voice was barely audible. "I'm sorry, Daniel, but I love him. I've never felt this way with anyone. Including me? Including your husband of 12 years? The father of your children?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. My mother appeared at my side. Her face was a mask of controlled fury. "Get my grandchildren," she said quietly. "We're leaving." I nodded. But before I went, I had one more thing to say. I turned to Melissa, who was sobbing in the arms of her bridesmaids. "I'm sorry," I told her. "I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. But I couldn't let you build a life on a lie. You deserve better. You deserve the truth." Then I looked at Gregory, who stood alone at the altar, his bride gone, his mistress exposed, his carefully constructed facade crumbling around him. "And you," I said, "you don't deserve anything." I handed the microphone to my mother and walked out of the ballroom. Behind me, I could hear the chaos erupting, shouting, crying, the crash of something breaking. I didn't look back. The next 6 months were a crucible. The divorce was brutal. Rachel fought for custody custody, argued that my public humiliation of her at the wedding constituted emotional abuse, claimed that I was unstable and vengeful. Her lawyer, a shark named Patricia Vance from some downtown firm, threw every accusation she could at me. But I had the evidence. All of it. My attorney, Harold Steinberg, 32 years of family law experience and a reputation for destroying cheating spouses in court, methodically presented the case. 8 months of photographs, hundreds of text messages, hotel receipts, restaurant bills, a paper trail of deception that Rachel couldn't explain away. Mrs. Ashford, Harold said during one particularly devastating deposition, you testified that your affair with Mr. Chen was an emotional connection that never became physical. Can you explain these photographs? He displayed a series of images that left no room for interpretation. Rachel's lawyer objected. The objection was overruled. By the end of the discovery process, Rachel's position had collapsed. She was granted supervised visitation with the children supervised because Ethan had testified, through a child psychologist named Dr. Amara Washington, that he no longer felt safe alone with his mother. He's experiencing symptoms consistent with betrayal trauma, Dr. Washington explained in her report. He discovered the affair himself, on a device meant for his protection. He feels responsible for the dissolution of his family, even though intellectually he understands he did nothing wrong. His trust in his mother has been fundamentally damaged. Thanks for watching. The court awarded me full custody. Rachel got 1 weekend a month, supervised by a court-appointed monitor, the house, the cars, the savings all mine. She'd signed a prenup before our wedding that specifically addressed infidelity. Her affair had activated the clause, leaving her with almost nothing. As for Gregory and Melissa, their marriage was annulled within 3 weeks. Melissa moved back in with our parents temporarily, then transferred to her company's San Francisco office. She needed distance. I understood. Gregory's reputation in Chicago's financial circles was destroyed. The story had leaked. These things always leak, and suddenly the hedge fund manager was known as the man who slept with his fiancée's sister-in-law for 8 months before the wedding. His partners started finding reasons to distance themselves. His clients started finding other managers. Last I heard, he'd moved to Miami. Rachel followed him. She says they're building a life together. My mother told me one evening, her voice dripping with contempt, as if what they have is a foundation for anything but more destruction. I didn't care. By then, I'd stopped caring about anything Rachel did.